consider a made-up story. We'll call the object of our story Susie. All Susie ever wanted was to have children. That was the deepest desire of her heart. Eventually, Susie got married. Though there were many complications, several miscarriages and difficulties along the way, eventually she had 2 daughters. Her dream came true. It was also her dream that she would give to her children an absolutely perfect life. Unfortunately, though, her overdriving power to give her children that perfect life made it virtually possible for them to enjoy life and for her to enjoy them. Her overprotectiveness, her fears and anxieties that she extended onto them, her need to control every detail of their life made her and her children miserable. Her oldest child underachieved all through school. The youngest child seeded a deep anger and resentment that by the time she was a young adult, she was filled with emotional problems. Here's the irony. That which she always wanted, the deepest desire of her heart, her desire to have children and to give those children a perfect life, a wonderful life, ended up ruining life for all of them. She got what she wanted, and it ended up being the cause of her greatest heartbreak and her greatest disappointment. Is it possible to get what your heart desires most and be heartbroken? The answer is yes. I call this the inevitability of idolatry. Often getting our heart's desire ends up in disaster. Now, why would that be? I want to point out to you something Paul says in the first chapter of Romans. In Romans chapter 1, verse 24, Paul says, "Therefore God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts." In other words, as an act of judgment, God lets people pursue and even achieve their heart's desires. Have you ever thought that your heart's desire would be a form of God's judgment upon us? You see, when we pursue something that is our heart's desire that's something other than God, it becomes an idol. And if you choose to worship an idol, God will let you. God has allowed America to pursue the American dream as our idol. And that is why all across our landscape, there are so many broken hearts, broken people, and broken families. God allowed us our idol, and we have received the benefit of our idol. In the very next verse, in Romans 1, verse 25, Paul sums up the history of the human race with one sentence. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshiped and served created things rather than the Creator. Why is that? Now hear me carefully, friends. Because we are by nature idolaters. Every human being must live for something. There must be something that captures our imagination and that grabs our heart's most fundamental allegiance and hope. And unless God intervenes by His Holy Spirit, calling us to Him by faith, that object will not be God. In other words, our default setting is idolatry. The default setting of our heart is to worship something other than God. We end up looking to something of this world to give us meaning, to give us hope, to give us happiness, things that only God can give, and eventually they fail us. we get what our heart desires, and our heart ends up broken. Our make-believe mom, Susie, she got what she wanted most in life, children, but they broke her heart. She did not end up ruining her children's lives and her life because she loved them too little, nor because she loved them too much, but because she failed to love God enough. And everything was out of perspective. Your heart's desire must take on the weight of God-like expectations. She asked her children to do for her what only God can do. And her little child gods were crushed under the weight of those expectations. Whatever your heart's desire is, must bear the weight of God-like expectations. Whether it's your spouse, your children, your talents and abilities, your career, your looks, your lifestyle, whatever it is, it must bear the weight of God-like expectations. If you ask someone or something other than God to be God for you, you are condemning them to failure, because inevitably no one can bear the weight of being God other than God himself.